Good morning. Welcome to Buckwheat Farms Magic Emporium and Ballroom. I'm Ravenscraft9. I'm your host and the head wizard here at Buckwheat Farms. And today is Wednesday, Odin's Day, July 28th, 2021. Today I want to talk to you about the Garden of Eden. Where is the Garden of Eden? Is there really a Garden of Eden? If you look at the biblical account, and again, when I'm talking about the Bible, I don't care whether you do believe it literally, allegorically, because it's both. Because there's no such thing as an allegorical meaning. There's no such thing as make believe, because everything that we imagine is a reality. Our bodies can't tell the difference. And so it is with this idea of the Garden of Eden. The biblical account says that everything in the garden was good for Adam to eat. Everything was for his nourishment. Everything provided what he needed. And one of the things with permaculture is that I've noticed that around here is, again, I've said right now, everything that I need, I have at hand in my own little garden here. And even those invasive, quote unquote, species that I didn't plant. Purslane has come in here. We've got wild plantain, wild strawberries, just different plants, and even the dandelions that are beneficial. Not only beneficial, but high quality food sources, higher quality sources of many vitamins and nutrients than those. Well, it's actually a better than the supplements, because the supplements in pill form, a lot of studies have shown that if you take your vitamins in the forms of pills, most of the vitamins just being washed through the systems. Your poop and your urine smell really vitamin-y, but you're not getting a lot of it, because our body is meant to take in the natural sources. It's one of the things when we were looking at going into Judaism, we were looking at converting to Judaism, we began to study the kosher laws and the kosher as it applies to food and what foods were kosher and non-kosher. And one of the books we read talked about all the additives that are in food. One of the interesting additives I found, and you can find, I can't remember the name of it right now, but there's a certain ingredient that you find out it's taken from a gland beneath the cat's tail. I mean, who was the guy who said, this food, this stuff really tastes good, but what it could use is some cat ass? And that's kind of the mentality that we have, that somehow we can improve upon it. And where did that come from? Where did this idea, as I was riding around, we were talking about this yesterday, and I asked my wife, I said, why don't we teach this in schools? Why don't we teach the kids that you can step out your door, you can forage, and you can find everything you need? And in fact, this is one of the interesting things that I found. Anyone who studies herbalism or natural medicine will tell you this, that whenever a new species comes up in your garden, generally, do some research on it, it's probably something that your body needs or requires. I remember a couple of years ago, I had a plant that came up in our olive guild, or last year actually, that came up in our olive guild that I don't know how it got there. In fact, it's not even native to this area, but it came up, and as I identified it, I found out that the plant was good for treating blood pressure. Well, a member of our family had some blood pressure issues at the time. Now, I didn't take advantage of it at the time. Again, we see as in a mirror darkly now, but soon face to face. We're all seeing our way through this. But I began to look at other things. I've got, the other day, I got bitten by a spider, pretty bad spider bite. In fact, it was really starting to get some necrosis and started swelling. And Charlene had read about purslane. Well, I have purslane here. So I made a salve of purslane and kept purslane on it. And now it's healing up, and all of the necrosis stopped. So why is it that we're not told about these things? One, because it would require personal responsibility. And that's one of the things that again, when you look at the story in the Garden of Eden, where Adam says, after the whole rigmarole, Adam says, it's because of the woman you gave me, and Eve said, it's because we're all wanting to blame something outside of ourselves, and not taking personal responsibility. And that is orchestrated, because as you release responsibility, you also release autonomy. Gosh, think how dangerous it would be to the corporate structure if everyone were to find out that they could. I remember several years ago, Yule Gibbons said, "Did you know many parts of a pine tree are edible?" So how much would the corporate structure fail if people were to discover this, were to discover that we can just go out and forage our foods, or we can grow our own foods, or being encouraged to. Everything is a discouragement from those things. It's from zoning laws to water collection laws. And why is that? Why is that? It is because of corporatism. It is because of worldwide fascism. Fascism is the idea of corporations actually running the state, the state-run corporations, and that is the hand in glove that we have in 99% of our world, is this corporate money running things, so that all of the propaganda is geared towards artificial, outside, man-made solutions to natural problems. Look at the current issue we're facing now with the plague that is upon us. And everyone dismisses the idea that my natural immune system, supplemented by natural ingredients, is sufficient to stave off this dread disease. In fact, our bodies are created to last forever. Every 7 years, the entire thing is new. Every 7 years. But it is our seeking of these outside things. I mean, think about even the medicines that we take. My God, the list of side effects is usually twice as long as the list of things that the medicine is supposed to cure. I look at my own father's situation, and we're coming up on a year, I think. Yeah, it was 2020 or 2019? It may be 2 years now. No, it was about a year. Anyway, when Dad was sick in the hospital, we thought he was going to die. He was 270 pounds, just terrible shape. And we just came home and made changes in his diet, in his mindset. And now he is healthier. He's down to probably about 185 now. Healthier than he's been in a long time, moving around. The only reason he uses his walker is because it gets him sympathy points with the chicks. But all these things that the doctors were trying to convince him could not happen, happened. And it wasn't the medicine. The medicines were keeping him sick. It was natural means. And why is that? Because there's no money, there's no profit. And if you don't think it's profit motivated, if you don't think it's money motivated, I've had friends who, when I told them, when the pandemic, quote unquote, first hit and restaurants were closing and everything, I said, that's probably a good thing. We have far too many restaurants that don't really serve food. They serve crap that's killing. I mean, if you want to talk about a pandemic in this country, look at shut down McDonald's, shut down Burger King, shut down these crappy food places that are killing. Shut down Kellogg's and their sugar frosted flakes. I mean, but again, follow the money. Where is the money? There's this universal kind of fascism that's come about, where the dog is being wagged by the tail, where all of the government regulations, all of the propaganda is geared towards perpetuating this corporatist environment with this false food. And let me tell you something. I guarantee you that the oligarchs aren't stuffing, well, except for Trump, but he's an exception, aren't stuffing their faces on Big Macs and ho-hos. They're eating well. They're eating natural foods that come from natural sources. And at the same time, they're putting all kinds of legislations and regulations in place to keep you from doing the exact same thing. So what does that have to do with the Garden of Eden? As we were talking about this, I told my wife, I said, gosh, the reality is that we do exist still in the Garden of Eden. The Garden of Eden never went anywhere. That this earth supplies, continues to supply, will continue to supply everything that we need, physically, spiritually, and emotionally, is created here. And that when we look outside of the natural sources, the natural resources, that we are stepping out into a cursed world, that we're seeking our own way, that the majority of it comes down to this rejection of personal responsibility. Because by taking on personal responsibility, I acknowledge that I am here physically, mentally, emotionally, spiritually. I am here 100% because I have chosen to be, because I have made choices that put me exactly in this place. So how do you get out of this place? How do we get back to the Garden of Eden in our lives? It's very simple. You just make the choice. Just change your mind. Today, make the steps, whatever step it is, whatever incremental step it is, to begin eating better, to begin embracing the natural, holistic medicine that is in our environment. Put down the ho-hos, put down the ding-dongs, put down the processed sugars, put down the hard liquor, put down the artificial means of treating, and step in to your garden. Everything that you have, that you need, is here. You just got to open your eyes to it. Namaste.